Hello, everyone. This is Craig with Southern Fried Geekery Podcast. I wanted to invite you all out to Comic Conway presented by Faulkner County Library on November 15th through 17th. Friday will be at the library in Conway, and Saturday will be at the Conway Expo and Event Center. There will be some fantastic guests there. Freddie Williams, Howard Chaykin, Matthew Reynolds. Come out and join us and come see this wonderful show that's being presented to you. He took all of it. And what he did is he walked over to it and he started flipping all the buns off of it and just taking the chicken out of the nibbler.
He, after they left, he ran back in and we had those trays, those platters, and he just grabbed all of the meat from one of them.
Yeah.
And was just like...
Yeah, and then he did. The one
bounced.
that Leland brought?
Yeah.
He's like, oh, I didn't see those. He's like, I'll grab a handful on my way out. And that's all that was in there was literally a handful.
Yeah.
So because I didn't get the recording started in time, I just want to note for anybody who might be listening to this that what we are discussing was the events of last night, to which we threw a little shindig. We didn't throw. Craig threw. Craig threw a little shindig last night for... It was really a bittersweet occasion.
Yeah,
it was. Yeah, we were actually celebrating the anniversary of people creating Jell-O shots.
That was what we were doing. Speaking of Jell-O shots, how many did you make, Craig?
We made... It's somewhere around 120, probably closer to 130.
How many attendees were there at this party?
18, and I know for sure that 2 didn't drink at all.
How many Jell-O shots are left?
0.
Jerry, how many Jell-O shots did you do?
You guys thought that I loved margaritas.
Yeah.
Well, you learned something new last night.
We did learn something new. Because we got a shit ton of margaritas left and mix left. And
I just send it with me to Seattle. It'll get drank.
At one point, Jerry comes skipping through the living room with a wicker basket full of Jell-O shots, yelling, "I'm the Jell-O shot fairy." And he was.
There was not a single person that did not get a Jell-O shot last night.
He was. No, so what we were doing was and it's kind of going to be one of the things that we talk about on this episode, we were saying goodbye, in a sense, to our dear friend, our beloved partner, and our fellow podcaster, one of the key members of the SFG crew, our beloved Jerry.
Yeah.
Are we going to end this episode with a landslide?
No, we're going to end this episode by reminding people that Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself. That's how we're going to end it.
Perfect.
So Jerry is leaving us, so to speak. He's not leaving our hearts. He'll always live there, but he is departing.
Moving to the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah,
not the specific
Northwest, but the Pacific Northwest.
Someone said last night.
Our boy's moving to Seattle. He's spreading his wings and he's flying. He is going up there to be with his lady to spend some time just exploring the place. He's going on an adventure, and we're really proud of him. Unfortunately, the way that we record our podcast, we don't do like a lot of podcasters do. We don't record over Skype. We're not really set up for that. Kind of the impetus of us doing this was all literally getting together as friends around a table and doing it, and that's kind of the way we do things. So unfortunately...
He tried to be so stealthy.
Unfortunately, that means that Jerry's no longer going to be... you're not going to hear his little beloved dulcet tones every week.
If we ever get where we can do a Skype with what we do, then we'll get Jerry on, at least for some...
Listen, we need to go ahead and get to the hardcore nitty-gritty discussion of this episode.
Oh, God.
And that is your pronunciation of Cthulhu.
Oh, boy.
You mean that everybody was wrong?
Right.
Because it's actually koala.
I was spent time this morning trying to pronounce like it's supposed to be pronounced. I think I got close.
Cthulhu?
No, it's a mess.
Yeah, it's one of those words that we're arguing semantics about a word that literally he just threw some vowels and consonants together and said, here's a word.
It's one of those things that like human minds can't comprehend,
right?
Supposedly, So.
I struggle with Cthulhu less than I struggle with Cthulhu, or however you say it. That one's the one that gets me every time.
Well, and if you do say it correctly, nobody else will know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
it's like these.
It's like Sam Hain.
It's like the Celtic words we've discussed. I mean, if you pronounce them correctly, you're the only one that'll know what you're talking about.
Yeah, well, Sam Hain's actually Samhain.
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 Yeah. There's a whole list of them.
But Jerry's just Jerry. So,
Yeah.
and we had a great time. We hope you enjoyed your send-off last night. And we hope you enjoyed your send-off on this show, man. We're going to miss you. We're going to miss you here. We love you. We know the listeners love you. And you'll be back. You'll be back on the show. You won't be back in Arkansas. I'm not saying I hope that. I'm just saying you come.
You will visit is what he means.
You will visit.
Yeah.
Not you will fail.
Yeah.
You will always have a chair here.
We're all proud of you.
Yep. We love you, and we were all really impressed by your constitution rolls on those Jello shots because we all were pretty sure you were just going to die.
Yeah,
and you didn't. You survived.
It's a great time.
Well, we are not just a send off show. We are the Southern Fried Geekery podcast. As usual, I am Caleb Alexander McKenzie,
Matt Trogdon,
Jerry Smith.
And I'm Craig Lance.
and we're back. We're back to talk about some funny books, some comics. If you don't know, if you've never listened to this,
do on this show?
it is upon occasion. If you don't know, what we do is we get together every week around a table. We talk about some funny books that we know and love, except for once a month where we talk about listener questions, which you can ask us if you go to our Facebook page, the Southern Fried Geekery Podcast group on the Facebooks. You can find us there. We're always there. We're talking about fun stuff. We're sharing memes. We're sharing articles, jokes, and talking about the things that we love. You can also see what we're reading on Instagram and on Twitter at SFG Podcast on both of those things. We hope you join us there. We would love for you to interact with us and become part of our little SFG community. But yeah, so we talk about comics. We love the sequential mediums. We love the arts. We love the books. Superheroes, a little bit of everything, all kinds of stuff, from the biggest publishers to the ones you've never heard about. We discuss them right here on this show. And Jerry's sneezing in the background. That's hilarious. So what we like to do to kind of get us started, to get us in the mood for talking about these funny books, these comics, is to kind of give each other an idea of what we read this week. Start us off with a little bit. Maybe I had
Please don't.
Please don't shart us.
Maybe I had too many Jello shots last night. But we're going to start off by letting each other know what we read this week. Give each other a little short stack of comics as an aperitif, if you will. And I'll kick us off if y'all don't mind. I'll tell you what I read this week. So I got a chance to read Deceased number 6. It's the last book of the Deceased line. This little mini-series that Tom Taylor and Stefano Giordano did, which really, I think the important thing that you can walk away from this book is you get a true understanding of what a true clutch player that Green Lantern is, despite what Batman thinks. That was fun. I also read Fantastic Four Grand Design number 1 by Mr. Tom Scioli, which is it's just a badass tribute to the world that Jack and Stan built around Marvel's first family. It's more than just a history of the Fantastic Four; it's a history of Marvel, and done beautifully. I love that man's style. And then, last but certainly not least, a book that I was a little, I didn't not care for it when I read it, but I wasn't nearly as impressed by the first issue as I thought I was going to be. But it's become a book I look forward to every month, is the most recent book from Second Coming by Mark Russell and Richard Pace, which gave us a delightful scene about the danger of sporks. And that was nice.
I have not read that.
You have to. Yet, you'd be surprised about how influential the spork is on the life of Christ.
That's a long time coming.
Man, those things they're fearsome. Really, the spork.
I'm telling you,
those hybrid weapons.
Human determination in a spork.
It's the epitome of what's the phrase? Necessity breeds ingenuity, or something like that. Yeah, that's what the spork is.
I mean, if I've learned anything in life, and especially from Jackie Chan movies, is that everything's a weapon.
Yes. The spork will save you. What'd you read this week, Craig? Tell me something.
I read Basket Full of Heads, which is a DC Black Label book. Joe Hill, Leo Max, and Dave Stewart. I really enjoyed this book. It's a good first issue to a series. You kind of got like opening tension going on a little bit, like the first 15 minutes of Scream, where there's stuff going in the background, but you don't really know what it is yet, and it kind of builds up. Also read Hellblazer number 1. Again, it's a DC Sandman universe this time. Cy Spurrier, Marcio Takara, and Chris Peter. This was a really good take on Hellblazer, something we haven't had in a little bit. Kind of reset the Constantine world a little bit, the way it went. Now it's in its own thing again, where he needs to be kind of outside of DC's proper continuity. And then I read Tales from the Dark Multiverse, The Death of Superman by Jeff Loveless and Brad Walker. Another one of these books that I was really... I'm not a big out-of-continuity I don't really care for the what if style books, but these have been really good.
Yeah.
What they're doing is they're taking these books, like the last one was the Nightfall, where Batman doesn't really recover from having his back broken.
Let's not talk about that one as much.
Okay. And then this one is Superman doesn't make it to his regeneration chamber in time after getting killed, and Lois goes off the deep end and actually gets his powers and what she would do as a woman that's lost the man of her life.
Yeah.
And now has those superpowers, and it was real interesting.
Huh. I didn't check that out. I may have to.
Yeah, it's good.
You've intrigued me.
Yeah, it's good.
What you got for us this week? Let's hang on. You shut up. You're going to go last. This is your day. We're saving you for last.
Oh.
Shut up. Shut up.
This is your special day.
This is your day. You get to wait.
Shut the hell up.
I'm glad we're staying consistent. So I read Marvel Comics Dead Man Logan number 12. This is the last issue in this 12-issue run. This is by Ed Brisson, Mike Henderson, and Nolan Woodard. Last issue of a title called Dead Man Logan. I'll let you figure out what happens in that issue.
Yeah, I'm sure nothing bad happens.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, it was a good wrap up. The story's been fun. The second to last issue, when I'm spacing on her name. Luke Cage's and Jessica's daughter gets Thor's hammer.
Danny.
Yeah, she throws it and obliterates Mr. Sinister's face. And it's like his illustrated eyeball goes flying off a panel.
Nice.
Pretty gruesome. Of course, it
Thor needs to do more of that.
Yeah. So a lot of gruesome use of the hammer.
Did you just say gruesome use them?
Gruesome use of the hammer.
No, you said use them. I heard it.
So that's she's the Thor in the new book that they're doing with the because they're doing a team book based in that universe.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's it called?
God, I can't remember off the top of my head. I'll look it up though.
Yeah, I think I remember seeing it in previews.
Yeah, it just popped up in previews.
Yeah. Of course, in Baby Hulk goes, there's some background rampage of Baby Hulk that was pretty cool in there as well. So,
who's the mama for Baby Hulk? Does it matter? Probably doesn't matter.
I do not recall. Yeah, I do not recall. Also read from DC, Batman Annual number 4, Tom King, Jorge Fornes, Mike Norton, and Dave Stewart on that one. This was really fun. This was just a bunch of very short Batman vignettes. We'll call
it's sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. It's Avengers of the Wasteland. And I think it's that it shows a Hulk, a Thor, and then an Ant-Man. I'm assuming the Ant-Man is probably the kid that was in the Old Man Hawkeye series.
Yep.
The Hulk is,
Baby Hulk.
Baby Hulk, and then the Thor is definitely their daughter.
Who's on that book?
It's going to be. That's a great question. Ed Brisson.
Oh, Brisson's on it. Okay.
Yeah, and Jonas Scarf.
Nice.
Yeah, that's a good team.
But this Batman Annual number 4, I liked this Tom King piece more than anything he's done in a long time. This was really cool, and I really dig Jorge's art. His penciling is really cool. I really dig it. It's very reminiscent of Mazzucchelli.
Okay.
I'll have to check it out because I don't typically read the annuals because they don't really tie into the ongoings anymore.
And this doesn't.
Yeah.
It's
I may check that one out.
It's based around Alfred just recalling these episodes in Batman's
Life.
career, and it was cool. And the art really drove it home. There's some really cool little fight scenes in there as well that was a lot of fun. And then thirdly, I read DC's from the Black Label, The Last God, Book 1, from Philip Kennedy Johnson, Rikaru Federici. Maybe I said that right. Sonny Gu with Dean White. This was cool.
This is my book of the week.
Is it? Okay. Yeah. This was cool. I really dug it. I'm really looking forward to seeing where it's going. I'll let Craig talk about what it's actually about. But the art was great.
Yeah.
The world building was really good.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to seeing where this goes. And that's my 3.
Yeah.
Hey, I just want to point out that I did not interrupt Matt at 2, and therefore, for no other reason, this episode is a success. That's my standard.
That's why Caleb went first.
Let's
all be real.
Yeah, that's why I go, because I don't trust myself. So, Jerry, Mr. Well, not birthday boy, but Mr. Celebratory person of this episode.
Yeah.
What were your 3 books that you read this week that you want to tell us about?
So I read Gotham City Monsters number 2.
Mm-hmm.
We had the return of Melmoth, the king from Mars.
Yeah.
And he's essentially going on with his plot. Whenever you have a team book, it's always like kind of, you just want the team to be together already.
Right.
So they're still kind of building towards that, and that's what they did this issue. Everybody figured out that they had a common goal, and it's time to get down to business to stop this guy. I guess I should say who it's by. Steve Orlando's writing. Monkey Nelpon is the artist, and then Trish Mulvihill is the colorist. It's just been great. I've got my odd cast of heroes. They had a great freaking Predator handshake with Frankenstein and Killer Croc. That was just fantastic.
Did my girl show up yet?
You son of a bitch! No.
Well, never mind.
Bushing too many tonsils.
Yeah. And then I actually got to sit in Capel Wednesday and work a day, one last day. And one of the things that I read while I was up here that Craig had just mentioned was one of the tales from the Dark Multiverse, which preceded the Superman one, and it was a retelling of Batman Nightfall. It's with Scott Snyder and Kyle Higgins, Javier Fernandez, and Alex Guimarães, and Clayton Cowles. It's the retelling of the Nightfall storyline, except after Batman comes back, defeats Bane, Azrael stabs him literally in the back, and Azrael takes over and just becomes like this iron fist that rules Gotham. And it gets a little bit darker than that, because instead of just straight up killing Bruce, he took his body apart, and he's got his head and his brain still intact, and it's connected to this device that has his heart and apparatus and everything in it.
And his brain's actually in a bubble behind his head.
Yeah. It's
every year. What happens is every year Azrael comes back and asks Batman for his approval, stamp of approval, and every year Bruce won't give it to him. He cuts off another part of his body. So that's why that's all that's left is his, basically his spinal cord and his head and his brain. And
it's a very, very unhealthy codependence on someone else's opinion.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's really unhealthy for that person, not so much for Azrael.
The art is fantastic in it. They give Azrael an updated look, and it's just fucking amazing. And one thing happens or another, and Bruce ends up getting a body and kicking ass later on.
Okay.
And then the third thing that I read this week,
because magic.
Yeah. Was a manga series that they just started releasing over here. It's been out since 2016, but there was no way that you could get it until Viz started publishing it here. I think it just dropped earlier this month. It's called No Guns Life, and it's a story about this kind of like hard-boiled detective / PI. But the world is very cybernetic, and people are constantly getting these enhancements and stuff like that. And this guy had gone to war and gotten all these crazy enhancements, and his head is literally a gun. Yeah. It's like a revolver, and then he has a mouth. And he's like all machine.
We all know so many people.
Someone in Texas just got an idea.
Manga.
And it's like there's this corporation that's doing this for people, but they've also got some crazy experimentation. There's a whole plot going on of other people that they're working on, of stuff that they're not supposed to be doing.
There's crazy experimentation in a story with a dude with a gun for a head.
What a twist!
Yeah. It's been wild though. They also just started dropping an anime for it here recently, so
Okay.
I highly recommend it. First volume of the manga came out just like a week or two ago, so
Badass.
check it out.
Well, those are good. Like, that's what I love about our little group of friends, is that we really do have a diverse, like, reading pool of things that we love. I mean, everything from, gunheads to, Batman lore to, I mean, just a little bit of everything. And that's why I like doing the show with you guys, because it's, there's a depth there. We span the gamut of what's possible with the medium, and it's fun times. So, are y'all ready to talk about a comic that we all read?
Yeah.
Not by Mike all read, but just that we all read. I am. So every week we like to bring a book and discuss it as a roundtable book, kind of like a family meal. We kind of revolve everything around this with food, because I think with my stomach, and so does everyone at this table.
Man.
Yeah, we like the way to our hearts is through our stomach. So this is kind of the way we fashion our show. So this is like for a family dish, a main course, if you will. We all read the same book, so we can discuss it, give some different perspectives on it, and in the way that we do with, everything. We are going to get a little bit in depth with it. And there's no way to really do that without spoiling things, right? So, it wouldn't do me any good to tell you, well, no, this book was, I could do the whole, like, no, this was great for reasons, and those reasons I think that you would enjoy, and you should read this, but that doesn't give you a whole lot of like meat and potatoes to really grab onto, right? Like that doesn't really entice you to go pick this thing up.
That's what you did there. Meat and potatoes.
Yeah, right? See? Stomach. Fatty. 2x4.
You guys remember the whole hour-long conversation between David, Mike, and Matt about just gym and vitamins and protein?
Yes, that did happen last night.
It actually went on longer than an hour.
Yeah.
Dang.
I'd walk in and I'd sit down and we're still talking this, and I'd get up and walk off.
They were sequestered in the health corner.
I'm sorry, there was this crazy like time magic that I was doing called Jello shots. So
right. But so back to the thing. Yeah. So we are going. No, you're good. We are going to spoil a little bit of this book. So, and this book that we are going to celebrate today. This book is Joker Killer Smile by Jeff Lemire, Andrea Sorrentino, and Jordie Bellaire. So, with that in mind, if you haven't read this book and you intend to, and you don't want us to like ruin anything for you, then you need to hit the little pause button right now. You hit it, and then you go consume this book, because you're gonna wanna. And then you'll come back and you'll listen to us, and we're gonna say great things, really intelligent things, really smart things. And you're not gonna be disappointed by returning
pressure's
to
on,
us.
guys.
You put way too much pressure on us. I got to be smart and intelligent.
Performance
and
anxiety.
Yeah, as with all things. So just spoiler warning, you can't get mad at us because you've been warned. This is it. Here we go. So we're going to talk about this in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, because I went to school. So Joker, Killer Smile. Before we break down this book, I'm kind of curious, just thumbs up, thumbs down from you guys. What do you guys think about this book?
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up?
Yeah,
thumbs up.
Yep.
Yeah, thumbs up. There were some things,
There's
but
some
thumbs up.
hesitation
There was
there.
some hesitation there. Like thumbs like 3/4.
3/4.
Yeah,
You're
3/4,
3/4 erect
Mm.
when you read it.
Yeah.
Not full.
Not
full
like
mast.
strong man, but no, I enjoyed
So
it.
you tear toilet paper, but not construction paper.
Yeah.
Got it.
So, all right. So, in order to really talk about this book, though, it's interesting because we actually had a conversation very similar to what this book was about a few weeks ago on the show when we reviewed the Joker film that just came out. So if you haven't listened to that episode, go check it out, because it is timely to what's being done here in this book. And in that episode, we got into a conversation about whether or not the Joker could be cured. Is the Joker sane? Is he just evil? Is there any avenue for redemption there for the Joker? And if not, what's the point in trying to understand him? As you guys know, like Matt and I kind of back and forth a little bit on this, because Matt's very much in the camp of no, the Joker's completely sane. Like to say he's insane means that he's curable and there is no cure for him. I think it depends on the writer, and I think that's where Craig landed on it as well. Like it just depends on what version of the Joker you're talking about.
For sure.
And I think that's one of the big questions that Jeff Lemire is really looking at with this book.
Well, and one of the questions,
Yeah.
or the main question to me in this book was not only can you cure him,
Mm-hmm.
but is he worth the effort to
Right.
try and cure him? So that's
yeah, and worth the effort. That inherently comes like that applies to the person who is attempting.
Yeah,
to do
is
the
it
curing.
worth the danger to that person?
And that person in Jeff Lemire's book is Dr. Benji Arnell. Dr.
Sorry,
Benji.
I didn't mean to
No, you
completely-
segued beautifully into that. It was almost like you meant to. It was professional as fuck, and I'm proud of you. Dr. Benji Arnell is doing all right for himself in life, right? Like he's this kind of successful psychotherapist in Gotham, got a nice house, he's living in the suburbs, got a nice car, supportive wife, a kid that thinks he's like, basically his kid thinks he's Superman, like he hung the moon. He's living the American dream. Everybody wants what Dr. Arnell has. However, it's not quite enough for him. Like he's a driven man. He's not content just like with the status quo. He wants to make his mark on life. He needs to do something that no other psychoanalyst could do, really. And in that, his avenue to do that, to just solidify himself as a prominent figure in his field, he's going to cure the Joker, or at least that's what he tells himself. Because if he cures the Joker, if you can do that, right, like you can cure anyone, there's going to be a trickle down effect. If he cracks the Crown Prince of Crime, he can make a treatment model that just can be applicable to anybody, any type of criminal behavior, any type of psychoanalytical behavior, like that they're going to call it the Arnell model. They're going to name it after him. He's just going to be this famous figure. And basically it would be this rising tide that would lift all boats in like therapeutic ships. Everybody's going to benefit. So he's kind of put his private practice on hold. He set it to the side for a little bit, and he's taken up this residency position at Arkham Asylum. He's been working with the Joker day in and day out. He's been asking all the right questions. He's putting in all the hard work. He just knows something about to break. He can feel it. Like he can feel it in his bones. He's getting there. But the clock is ticking, and he also is feeling that pressure. He's got about 2 weeks left before the Arkham administration just pulls the plug on his program, because they're not dumb, right? They've seen what the Joker can do to the minds of people who let him get too close. Mostly because this is a really tired trope in Gotham stories, but also because it's just what he does. So he's got about 2 weeks left, right? 2 weeks to crack the mind of the Joker and make the biggest discovery in the field of psychology of all time. No pressure at all, right? Like I'm sure this is going to end well. There's nothing that can go wrong here.
Well, we all know Jeff Lemire writes stories that wrap up with happiness.
Every time.
Yes, that's his goal, is to make you happy.
Goal accomplished. Everybody's happy. It's all have cake.
So after a really long day at the office, man, our boy gets home. He's tired. Traffic was shitty on the way home. You know how those interstates are around Gotham. They just get clogged up. It's time to put the baby boy to bed. His wife gives him a little bit of shit for being late. So they eat dinner and they shut it down for the day. Well, baby boy, just like every other, and he's a little bit older than a toddler, right? Like he's got to be 7 or 8-ish. Maybe a little bit younger than that. Not really sure. He wants a bedtime story from dear old dad. What kid doesn't, right? Like everybody loves these moments. So like a good dad, Ben tucks his kiddo in, pats him on the little head, he's like, I want a story, Daddy. Will you read me a story? And so he does. And so he grabs his book, or the kid hands it to him, really. He's like, hey, read me this one. It's, and he's like, oh yeah, I'll read you this book. It's going to be a sweet book. Good time. You'll go right to sleep. I'll go and, do daddy stuff and then go to sleep too. And so this book that he gets handed, it's a little kid's book, right? Like it's a young age's book for all intents and purposes, and it's about this little town full of all these little fluffy critters and animals and rainbows and everything that's always wonderful. And then one day, this man, this not really a man, he's something else, but his name is Mr. Smiles, and he comes to Happyville. That's what this town is called. It's Happyville. That's how you know it's a good place. And he comes to Happyville and he's talking to the critters, and he whips out his happiness machine, which has got a really long arm and it's got happiness blades on it that spin. And about this time, Dr. Ben realizes this book might be a little bit fucked up. He's like, what's happening?
What am I reading?
Yeah.
What's happening here? Because Mr. Smiles has a goddamn chainsaw, and the happy critters aren't so happy anymore. And Ben asks his kid, he's like, I can't read this to you. Where'd you get this book? And how did this get here? And I mean, really, this is some messed up, like Stabbity Bunny meth stuff. And the kid's all like, well, Daddy, you gave this book to me, and you promised you'd read this to me. And if you don't read it to me, I'll cry. Because you know how kids are. They do that.
Kids
that
can
shit.
remember everything.
They really do. They've got you on lock. They've got, like, if you need somebody to do depositions, you go to a 4-year-old and they'll tell you exactly what that person said. just, man, kids, I hear that they behave that way. That's what they do. Well, Ben is understandably a little bit bothered by the subject matter of this book with murder creatures and chainsaws and body parts of little fluffy animals. So he's just like, he shuts the whole thing down. He's like, no, like, you need to just, like, I guess he turns on the whole, like, YouTube channel thing, Go the Fuck to Sleep, being read by Samuel Jackson or something. He puts his kid to bed, and he walks out of the room. He's like, I just can't with this. So the next day, after all of this, a really hard night, he doesn't get a lot of sleep. He has some really vivid bad dreams. The next day, he's at the office, and he's having another sesh with the Joker. They're getting some shit worked out, talking about their fifis. And they're talking about one of the Joker's more heinous crimes. And in this particular crime, the Joker just kind of drowned a bunch of folks in this subway car that he sealed off. And he filled them full of these, like, fish that weren't just any fish. They were like modified somehow to have human-esque teeth, and it looked like a smile with the skin ripped
Joker
off.
gas.
Yeah, smiley fish. That's an old Batman story.
Yeah. It's and Dr. Ben wants to know how. How did the Joker do this, right? Like, and he asked the $1 billion question. Like, what did you do before you came the Joker? Like, who were you? And Mr. J just gets a kick out of this, man. He just kind of cracks up because this is it, right? This is everyone wants his origin story. That's like even in the real world, some meta commentary. Everyone knows that's why you get all of these different versions, because every writer wants to be the one who solidifies the origin story of the Joker. And you know what? This is his time. This is it. Dr. J is going to give it to Dr. Ben. He's going to let us all know this the culminating moment. Dr. Ben's going to find out where the Joker comes from. He's going to make his history. He's going to crack it. He's going to get the cure, and it's going to be this big thing. And are you ready? You ready for it? The Joker, his origin story, canon, solidified. It's a thing. The Joker is from this place called Happyville. And one day he shows up with his chainsaw. Tell me if you've heard this one before. You can see where this might unsettle Dr. Ben even more. Like, this is kind of the breaking point for him. And as the book goes to a close, Dr. Ben is starting to spiral. Like, he goes to the bathroom to throw some cold water on his face. Something's weird in the bathroom. He opens the stall. He sees a dead man with his throat slit, but his throat's not really slit. The guy's just kind of wondering why the fuck you walked in on me while I was pooping. Like he's starting to become disillusioned. Like, he's seeing things that aren't there. The Joker's broke in, man. The Joker's there. And that's where this series is going to go. That's where he's at with it. So we went around the table, and thumbs up, generally thumbs up all around. I enjoyed this. I think I was the only one who was a little bit hesitant on that. And I'll say that with this story, I think Jeff Lemire did a great job of it. I'm just tired of this trope. That's like, we've done this with Harley Quinn. I've read this in 40 other places. I really am tired of the psychotherapist that's going to cure him. I mean, we just got a movie about this. John Carpenter just did this in another book. Like, he homaged to this thing, and it didn't work out. I'm tired of that. I think it's a tired trope with the Joker. We're going to lock you in Gotham, and we're going to give you a doctor who's going to, like, figure out your brain. It's done very well by Jeff Lemire. Like, Jeff Lemire has done it as well as or better than anybody else who's ever done it. I just think it's a tired trope. Like, I'm kind of over it as a trope.
I don't disagree with that, but I will say this: it's Jeff Lemire, so I don't expect it to be the same story you've already
for sure.
heard.
And that, like, I was kind of hesitant because, like, I don't really care about the Joker, honestly.
Right.
That's just
you're not a Batman stan.
Yeah, that's just where I stand, and it kind of is like, because of that, because they keep repeating stories with him and everything like that. But I cannot pass up on an opportunity to read something Jeff Lemire and
it's
Sorrentino.
wonderful.
Yeah.
So I really dug. First of all, I really dug the art, and I really, really liked the way the Joker was penciled. Yeah. I thought. And I like that. The depiction of the Joker that I really enjoyed is he is, very calm. He's behind his glass. He's obviously bored.
Medicated.
May or may not. He's just, he's behind it. He's in course, the doctor's supervisor refers to him as an animal. Little things like that I really got a kick of. She understands, basically the Joker is so evil. Good people in the presence of him are going to be disturbed and are going to be infected just by spending time with him. He's just, you're in the presence of something that is that evil. It is going to tattoo your brain. And she's going to watch this happen to yet another guy who wants to use the Joker to make himself famous.
Which, I mean, giving credit to Jeff Lemire, he actually alludes to that in this. Hey, I'm not going to watch another. Yeah.
No, that's what I'm saying. Is that's what I liked about the story.
Right.
Is all this was laid out in here, and but also without making the character the doctor total douchebag. I also picked from it that he's also got. I mean, there's two reasons. He wants to make himself famous by, quote, curing the Joker.
Mm-hmm.
But as a professional in the field, it would be absolutely fascinating to have the opportunity to talk to somebody that is absolutely presented themselves as irredeemable, 100% evil, with no good qualities about them. Right. You want to pick that person apart because that is the business that you're in. I mean, you would be fascinated by a mind that operates that way. So there's two reasons the guy wants to do it, but the fact that all he's really talking about is making himself famous for curing him.
Right.
But I really like that the supervisor seemed to be the only one. It's like, look, I've experience with this animal, and you're wrong. You're walking into this world. I've been here before.
Yeah.
Right.
So I really got a kick out of that. Yeah, you're just visiting.
Yeah.
So I look forward to seeing where this story is going. I'm not real big on predicting things when I'm reading stories. I'm just like, let's see,
let the story,
unfurl itself. But so I'm really interested in seeing what Jeff Lemire's take is on it, because Jeff Lemire is a smart writer.
Yeah.
So I'm anticipating there's going to be a smart ending to this story. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of other writers I wouldn't be anticipating it near so much.
I agree, and I like that it's not, like I said in the opening of this, it's not just whether he should cure the or can he cure the Joker. Is the Joker worth that redemption if he can cure him?
Yeah.
Well, and of course his answer is, well, then I can use it to cure other people. But really, he wants his name on the paper.
Seems like justification.
There's ego there, and they mention, like, they use that word in the book. They're like, this is ego driven on some level,
right.
and I mean, to be fair, all things are right. Like even the work. So the work any of us do, like we want to do good things with our work. We want our work to benefit our families. We want our work to do good things, but it's also because we want to be good at our jobs. Like we want to leave our mark in the world in some ways. So there's a catch-22 there, and I think Jeff does a really good job of finding that space in the pendulum between just complete benevolence and complete ego. He does really good in playing in that field.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. And again, because it's Jeff Lemire, I don't think this is going to be the same story we've seen before. This is not going to be Harley Quinn.
Right.
This is going to be something different.
Yeah.
I believe that. And if it ends up being another Harley Quinn type story, then it will be done exceptionally well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's writing the human condition. So, like, I wasn't saying that I think, like, this isn't the birth of a new character. This isn't the birth of another Harley Quinn. It's just, I think it's starting off in that same place. And that's where I think it's just a tired trope. And again, it's a tired trope being done by one of the best writers in the field. So I find it enjoyable.
Yeah.
I find value in it, and it's there. I just start off I don't start off on second base in that one. Like, it takes me a little bit further to get there.
Well, that's justifiable. I mean, there's no doubt that Joker stories, I mean, it seems like an endless amount of Joker stories. So it's totally justifiable that somebody can be burned out on the character. Mm-hmm. You can make the same statement about a lot of characters that I love. Wolverine is a great example.
Right.
Totally justified that people can be sick of that character because he has been done into the ground.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, it just...
Well, and I think what Caleb's saying without talking for him isn't so much that it's another Joker story. It's that it's another... Oh, I'm going to cure the Joker story.
Yeah, I mean, it's another story that starts off in the same, like, we're taking these same building blocks, we're in the same sandbox that we've been a dozen times. Now let's see if I can be the one writer who takes it in a direction that all these other people have not necessarily failed to, but they haven't been nearly as compelling stories. And arguably Jeff Lemire can be that writer. Like I said, it's just I realize what the building blocks of the narrative are. I can see those things, and they're very clear. And I think they're supposed to be. I don't think he's trying to, like, he's not hiding there's a phrase I'm looking for, but I can't find it. He's not trying to hide anything. He's letting you know what he's doing. For sure. So you mentioned the art a while ago, Matt, and I want to get into that because this is not the first foray of these two gentlemen, this team together.
All three of them.
They've done a lot of books together.
Yeah, I think Green Arrow was the first New 52. Then they did Old Man Logan, and now they're doing Gideon Falls.
Yeah, and like Gideon Falls is killer, and I really think that Sorrentino has jumped up to a new level. with his art, especially with his layouts. Like one of the best pages, in my opinion, of this book is the scene where it's the people trapped inside the subway car, and all the fish are there, and he does an amazing job. And his style. So one of the things that he does. He uses digital to his benefit, where a lot of people use it to their detriment, in my personal opinion. But he uses photorealism. So he takes an actual photograph and he does like a digital overlay to get his line works and everything. And in some ways, he gives you the best of what you can do with that method. In some ways, in my opinion, there are some things in this book that are really clear examples of things I don't like when artists use that, because you're good. I don't like it to be like clearly a photo reference. I don't need to see, unless it's supposed to be a book about a show that has a very like clear actress or actor who needs to be there. I don't need so if you're doing Buffy, it needs to look like Sarah Michelle Gellar. However, with that being said, like the cover of this book is Barack Obama overlaid with Heath Ledger's face. That's Heath Ledger's mouth on Barack Obama's face. That's where that book comes from. One of the psychotherapists in this book is clearly Diego Luna. He's using Diego Luna's he's using some of the clips from Diego Luna in Milk. He's using some of the clips from some of the other Diego Luna work. Like you can clearly tell who these actors are, and like that's. He does it a lot better than maybe some other artists who do the same thing do. And who am I thinking of? The guy that uses a lot of porn actresses.
Yeah, Porn.
Land. Greg
Yeah,
Land.
Greg Land.
I always get Horn and Land mixed up.
He does
Greg Porn.
Greg Porn. He does it way better than Greg Land does. But still, when I see that, I'm just like, okay, well, I see what work you're using, and he may, again, like I don't know his intent in doing that. He may want you to. He may be bringing something new to the medium. He's like, hey, we can. Like this can be a blend. This is a multimedia aspect, and we can use these references in these people. But for me personally, as I'm reading the book, like I don't like that. Like that to me is the part I don't like about photorealism. That being said, he gives us pages like the fish page, which is clearly like done in his style, and it came straight out of his brain. And there's a ton of other pages like this. Also, I want to say the wife is another actress, but I can't think of her name. But like he's using real people to model these people out of. And on some level, that's okay, and there can be a way to do that. For me personally, I think he takes it a step too far, and he makes it way too close to home where you can absolutely tell those people are. With that being said, I want to throw this caveat. He does so with an economy of line that is insane. Like the way he puts things in just the right spot. Like there's not a lot of detail in the skin. He uses and part of that's Jordie Bellaire's coloring, right? Like part of that's just her being a rock star. But
that's Dave Stewart coloring this.
Oh, is it?
Isn't it?
No, it's Jordie Bellaire.
Is it Jordie Bellaire?
Yeah, it's Jordie.
Okay,
He puts like the lines in the mouth and the eyes in just the right spot where you're like, holy shit, he didn't do a lot of work here, but he did a lot of work here, right? And I think that's cool, but ultimately it pulls me out of the narrative when I see those things.
See, I didn't catch any of those references that you made, but I mean, I'm not saying that they're not there. Yeah. Me personally, I didn't catch them, but I'm one of those guys that it took a minute for Sorrentino to grow on me. When they first teamed up on Green Arrow, I didn't really care for his style. But it really grew on me, and now I tend to love his style. So
I think he's a fantastic artist. Like I think he was a couple of our artists of the year last year on the Southern Fried Geekery Awards
for Gideon Falls. Yeah. And for sure, if you actually recognize the person he's drawing, I can see how that can pull you out of the story.
Oh, sure, yeah. I don't know any of those people you named. So
Diego Luna, I do know, but I didn't catch
who Barack Obama is.
Here, I'll pull the picture of Diego Luna for you.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, it's him, and that's where like that again. Not necessarily there's nothing objectively wrong with that. That's completely my subjective opinion on that. So other people dig the shit out of it, and there's nothing wrong with it.
There's nothing wrong with it. But I can totally see how it pulls you out of it. If you recognize it, I can see that pulling you out.
Yeah, just like, hey, there's Diego Luna. Hey, Diego.
Well, they did
when
that
did you become a doctor?
The Star Wars books, they did that for a while. It was so photorealistic. It was like, I want to see your interpretation of Han Solo. I don't want to see you trace a picture of Han Solo, So I get it. Yeah. I absolutely do get it. I didn't catch it, but it...
other than that, I think the book is fantastic.
Yeah.
Anybody else got any last things you want to throw out about this book? Or
I don't know. I really appreciated the whole little story.
Oh, we didn't mention that.
Storybook. It was very Babadook.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm ready for them to start doing all of the wild panels and make you flip the book upside down.
Yeah, because
they're a really great team when it comes to altering your reality and making you not know what's really happening. You know? Like is this a thing that actually happened, or is this Yeah.
Well, like Matt said, trying not to guess what's going to happen is a hard thing to do.
Right.
And letting the story unfold the way it's supposed to is, I really think that we're going to see some things that are just different than what we're expecting.
I'm along for the ride, definitely. Yeah. And this isn't a statement on the quality of the book, but I do want to say I had at first, the Black Label book was a hard sell for me. Number one, I mean, so, you have to go out and buy a magazine size book. You got to get different bags and boards because it's a bigger format. I didn't necessarily understand why they were putting some of the reprints in the Black Label that they were. I'm kind of turned around on my opinion on that now. I dig the Black Label format a little bit.
Give me good content, you'll change my opinion.
Yeah, I'm still on the fence about it. I just need more characters, more properties and stuff in it than just Batman.
Yeah,
I look at it the way I look at any imprint, and that's like Matt said, it's quality. It's give me good content. It's not to repeat exactly what he said, but it's
Don't do it. It's fine. Plagiarize.
No, it's I'm gonna look at it per story. There's been some stories in there I don't care for, and there's been some that I've been way digging. White Knight was fantastic, but that kind of was retroactively Black Label.
Yeah, exactly. But I was like the size of this book, and I realize it's just a placebo effect, but you're giving me literally a bigger book. You're giving me more to hold in my hand. Mm-hmm. And to me that, like, again, placebo effect, but it kind of justifies the price I'm paying for it on some level. Other than a small, like you give me a smaller standard size book and you charge me $4.99 for it. Okay, but you give me this big book that covers more square inch of the page, and I get more to hold and more to look at. Like, okay, I'll pay. I feel better about paying that.
And here's one thing that I have noticed on these books, the Black Label in general, they're getting top-notch artists to do them.
Yeah.
So all of them are beautiful books, regardless. Maybe some of the old imprints, and we'll ignore the fact that we had year one Superman in there.
Right.
But for the most part, we've had great artists drawing these things. So that helps too. When you can look at a pretty book, it helps.
It is really pretty.
Can we really ignore Superman year one?
I'd forgotten about possible? It. I would love to forget about it. Y'all keep bringing it fucking up.
Glad you guys reopen that wound.
I'm ignoring it.
Just let it die.
These images flashing through my brain right now.
So I guess in finality, to finish this off, pull list. This is on my pull list. This is gonna finish with me. Yep.
I'll be picking it up.
Nice. So yeah, go grab this book. We hope you enjoy it as much as we did. I dig the shit out of it. I think it's great. I think there's work being done, so find value in it. All on to the individual books. I'm curious to see what you're all bringing to the meal today, what you're all going to contribute to this. Who wants to start us off first? Who wants to go?
I'll go first.
Okay, Craig.
So Matt brought this up earlier, but this is The Last God, DC Black Label. Speaking of Black Label, Philip Kennedy Johnson wrote it. Artist is Ricardo Federici, and colors by Sonny Go and Dean White. So the story starts off with the telling of a story in a woman who are battling the last god. Mm-hmm. And, they're saving the people from the torment of this god, and they kill him. And they kill this god. This being.
You're not supposed to be able to do that.
Yeah. Well, they do.
That's not how gods work.
They do. Ish. And so, which we'll get back to that in a minute. Uh-huh. And so they become these revered people and are made king and queen of the land. And jumps to the future, and they've got gladiator. This is the day they're honoring the king, and they've got a gladiatorial event where they're retelling this story. And the guy that's the main gladiator that's playing the king, he isn't killing anyone. Mm-hmm. He's just kind of beating them into submission. And, this is all playing on in the background, so you're getting the story while it's jumping back to the king and queen watching. And somebody asks the queen, was he always fearsome? And she says, yes. And it jumps to a panel showing a child that's newborn or very young, and her standing there, and the king behind her trying to kill the baby, and there's a nursemaid or midwife or something behind holding the king back.
That's not a healthy relationship.
That is not a healthy relationship. So we don't know the relationship with this child that the king has. You can presume a lot of things, but we don't know. And
you should go see Dr. Arnell about this.
Yeah. So then the king says, none of that matters. None of that matters. Why isn't he killing people? And who is he? And so we find out that his name is Avenger. And he hasn't ever killed anybody in the gladiatorial ring. His thing is that he just beats them into submission, and he takes pride in the fact that he's never had to kill anybody. And we also learn that this is his 60th gladiatorial event, and he gets his freedom at the end of this event.
Okay.
And so the king says, and gets up and walks off, and people are, where the hell's the king going? This is for him. And the queen says, carry on, we'll continue the feast without him. And it shows the king walking up to an altar, I guess you would call it. And it's kind of a depiction of his battle with the last god. And then he's walking up. This god that he supposedly killed is talking to him and kind of revealing this prophecy that hey, I told you could be king forever and people would kneel to you until your sins became flesh. And the king kind of clutches his heart and says, not now. And then it cuts back to the gladiatorial event, and it's over, and the gladiator is standing before the queen, and she asks him what he wants, and he says, well, I want to be in the king's army. I've done all of this. I want to join the king's army. And she looks down on him, and she recognizes something in him, something in his facial features, his ear, and she says, you're going back to the slaves. You're going to go do this another 60 times to get freed. And so he's just, okay, that's what the queen ordered me to do. There's more that happens. I'm not going to tell you any more of the story because I want you to go read it. This story is very well put together. It's so well done. It's an obvious reimagining of Beowulf, because you have this, hey, I killed the bad guy, but I really didn't. Now those sins are coming back to haunt me. The sins of the flesh, I'm sure, is that this kid is the king's son. Yeah. Now, whether it's with the queen or not, what makes this kid the king's sin? Maybe he tried to kill him. Maybe it's because he turned him into a slave and he's a gladiator. We don't know all of that yet. There's even a bald gold man in there. So there, which is the reference to the dragon when he takes the human form. Yeah. So there's some very obvious references to Beowulf, but not so much that it's in your face. And it's told really freaking well. And the art, oh my God, the art in this. The detail in the background is so good. And sometimes when you have this really detailed work, the colors will wash it out, but not in this case at all. You see all of the... And you talked about efficiency of line. This is efficiency of line, but it's a lot of freaking line. There is he didn't overdraw things, but there is a lot of detail going on in these pictures, just a lot. And everything about the story, the pacing, and like I said, it's, you feel like you've read this story or you've heard this story before, but it's done in a unique way. And it's not kind of like in your face, bashing it into your face. And I don't think it's going to be the retelling of Beowulf. It just has that feel to me.
Well, if they are sticking with the Beowulf theme, you know what you got to watch out for, right?
Yeah,
Mama.
The mama.
Mama's coming.
Well, and Mama's, I'm sure Mama's being represented as the last god. Right. Because that's who he made the deal with to become the king.
I missed out on this one. I'm sad. I should have grabbed this.
It's really good. I know that Matt read it and Jerry got it, but he hasn't had a chance to read it yet. So there's a lot more that happens. I only got you through like the first half of this book. And that's how good this book is, because it's building this world, it's building these characters, but it's doing so while all this action's going on. Yeah. So you've got these gladiatorial fights going on in the background while they're telling the story. So it's not like, oh, let's just pause and get you caught up. It's being told through the story.
Now, you said this is a Black Label book, right?
It is, yes.
I wonder if they're going to tie it into the new God stuff. Like, it seems like if you're going to have these world with gods and stuff in it, like
No, I think this is all its own thing.
Yeah, it's its own world.
Okay.
I mean, they even show the world at the...
Yeah, and it's very much, like I said, while it's Beowulf, it's a different time in English history. This is more of like just post-Romans, but pre-Danes as opposed to Beowulf, which would be post-Danes. So,
okay.
Yeah, I think it's a...
Well, it did really well on... talking about, the individual characters just enough to keep you interested, like intrigued, like the slave.
Yeah.
He's 100% dedicated to the king and queen.
Yeah,
even though he's a slave and he's been having to fight. He just won 60 battles without killing anybody. And he's told that not good enough. You're still a slave. And he's still totally dedicated to the king and queen.
And his buddy's like, hey, we're going to escape tonight. Why don't you go with us? And he's like, no, I'm going to do what the king and queen told me to do.
You just got fucked over, bro.
Yeah.
Why do you still want to kneel to these people?
Yeah, and he looks at the dude and he goes, I love you. You've been my friend and my mate this entire time that we've been in these games. Yeah. But if you speak ill of the king and queen again, I'll kill you.
Yeah. So
there's weird stuff going on that we don't know yet.
Yeah, the dedication and where's that going? Where's that coming from?
Yeah. And that's what I mean. It's Beowulf-esque without being exactly Beowulf.
Nice.
So you've got, like I said, the king makes a deal with the creature to get the kingdom. You've got all these things going on.
And you got the mystical tribe that they call the Grass Eaters.
Yeah.
Also, that interaction was really interesting.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot that happens in this in a first issue. It's so compact with stuff, but not in a way that you're overloaded.
I feel like I committed a sin against comics by not buying this.
Well, I think it's probably still on the wall.
There was one left the other day.
I need to right this wrong.
And if not, you can borrow mine.
Yeah, I may have to. Awesome sauce.
Yeah, it's a good book.
Well, who wants to jump next? Who wants to follow that?
Jerry's last.
Oh, Jerry goes last? So, well, I can't go next for obvious reasons. So please go before me.
Okay. So I'm curious about what the obvious reasons
that you'll interrupt him.
Yeah. You will tire of my story.
You look
and deem it finished.
You asked for consistency. You can't be mad when I give it to you just because you don't like the flavor.
Watch this.
So I will go next. So I borrowed a book from my dear friend Craig over here because Craig reads things sometimes that I might miss, and he says, "Hey Caleb, this sure feels like a book that you would love." And I would say you've got like how some, like, if a batter's batting 500, he's just like an amazing person. Like you're swinging like 850 when it comes to giving me books that I like. Because we've been friends for a long time. You know my taste, and so you gave this book to me, and just I love every panel and every page, and I absolutely fell in love with it. And this book is called Simon Says. It's by Andrea Sorrentino and Jesse Lee. It comes out of Image Comics, and believe it or not, it's inspired by. It's not 100% dedicated to, but it's inspired by a true story. So what is Simon Says? What is this book? For those like you, Craig, you've read it, so I already know you know. Simon is a hard-boiled detective type figure. This is a very noir crime story.
Is his head a gun?
His head is not a gun. No, it's not. But he is a weapon. Make no doubt about it. And Simon is doing this work. He's doing this detective work in Berlin. Just we're barely scraping by the end of World War II. Is it the Nuremberg trials?
Yeah, the trials are going on. The war's over.
Yeah.
The Jews have been freed, but they're rounding up Nazis.
Right. So, and I think this takes place just at the end of the Nuremberg trials.
Yeah, it's as the Nuremberg trials are finished.
Maybe you're like a decade. So we might be in the mid 1950s here. They don't really give a good date. But Simon is a Jewish man. He was a victim of the Holocaust, so to speak. He lost his families to the camps, and when he was in the camps, his job was he was the guy who painted the swastikas on the trains. That was what he did. And I can't fathom that. Like, number one, there's not much about the Holocaust that I can fathom. And I'm glad I didn't live through that moment in history. But I can't imagine being forced to draw the symbol of your persecutors on the vehicle that's bringing in more victims. Like, I can't imagine what that is, but that's what they made him do. So, of course, the Allies came in and they freed them. And they took over Germany. carpet bombed Germany, there wasn't a whole lot of Berlin left standing. And so after this, Craig is 1,000% on point. The new regime, the new government, with the help of the Allies, with the help of the Austrians, and just a whole lot of people are going through, and they're rounding up criminals. They're rounding up people for war crimes, people that broke the Geneva Convention, and they're arresting them. They're throwing them through the trials and everything. But the public is starting to lose interest in this. And during this time, they've given Simon a job. Simon is working as he's not a part of the police force. He's just a person. He's got his own agenda. He's pissed. He wants these people arrested. He wants them punished because they destroyed his people. They destroyed his family. And so he's taken it upon himself to work as this kind of detective figure in conjunction with the police department. So, and he's been successful, man. This dude he's been one of the key figures. He's almost become a detective, a famous detective-like figure, very much in the vein of what maybe Agatha Christie's Poirot character. Like he's got a legend about him. He's becoming a public figure because he is so good. But now he's kind of, all the small fish are caught, so to speak, and he's starting to climb up the pinnacle. He's starting to climb the pyramid towards these generals, these people. At the top of the pyramid is obviously Hitler, because he doesn't really think Hitler is dead. Underneath that is Himmler, but it just kind of trickles down to these other people, and he's starting to whittle his way up through them. And these are figures that for the Nazi Party, they escaped. They were never caught. A lot of people speculate that in real life they moved to Argentina, that they're in South America somewhere, and most of them are dead now just because that's how age works. But a lot of people weren't for sure that they caught who they wanted to catch. So he's done this, right? And he's been working with a partner. He's got a buddy that helps him out. Simon does, and his partner, his name's Bruno. Nice guy, white guy, blonde hair. You can really see, he's very much, the Nazis would have loved him. Like that, like he would have been key in that. And he's working with Bruno, but you start to feel like maybe there's something there, like that this is more of an obligation for Bruno and not necessarily something Bruno volunteered to do. I mean, he's happy to do the work. He doesn't like these people, and he fights alongside Bruno on several occasions. Like they're friends. They get into fisticuffs against other people together. They help one each other out. But it's not so one-sided as to be something that there's something driving him to do it. There's something forcing him to do it, that he can't make himself not do it. And we don't really know what that is until towards the end of the story. But part of what they do in their detective work is they're going about and they're uncovering things. They figure out that this guy who's kind of masquerading in plain sight, he's a cop. He's a head of the police department. He's been helping round up these other Nazis. This guy's not what he seems. He's been operating in plain sight. He is actually a Nazi. He was actually a high-ranking Nazi that was a head of one of the camps that has now wormed his way into the political system through a series of corrupt movements and being able to not being so well known because he hid in the shadows. He operated in the shadows. He was a very he's good at subterfuge, but now he's a cop. But he's also running an underground operation of people who are getting Nazis out. Mm-hmm. Berlin is no longer safe for the Nazis. Like, they're getting hunted down. So he's leading this smuggling operation of Nazi sympathizers. And these people are carrying cards that have the SS symbol, the lightning bolts. And that's how you know they are. Like, I hate to use the phrase, but it is an underground railroad for Nazis to get them to safety and away from being punished for their horrendous crimes. And Simon and Bruno uncover this. And they're just, I mean, number one, they're verklempt, right? They're just like, how could this be happening? How could he, like, he's a cop. He's doing this. He's how is this, how have we allowed this to happen?
I got a question real quick. Is it referred to as Odessa? This underground railroad?
I don't know.
Is that where?
I don't know that it was ever referred to.
Just curious.
I didn't see that in the book. I'd have to go back and do a reread on it, but possibly I don't know. And so they start trying to get this guy. They're trying to, like, this guy's got to have left a loose rope somewhere. He's got a loose end that he hasn't tied up. So they're trying to find that. And generally, like, historically, they've been really good at their job, but they just can't find the way in. They can't shoehorn their way to be able to uncover evidence that this very public figure, this very renowned, at this point very celebrated figure, is an actual Nazi that is leading the city's police department. And so they try to set him up. They try to wear a wire. They're unsuccessful. They try to go again. Our buddy Bruno, former Nazi kind of guy, Like he looks like that's what he might be. So they try to get him in there, but it's not going to work. He's afraid that they might recognize him from something. Again, you don't know. There's some history there. And I kind of just ruined the surprise on it. Our buddy Bruno is, in fact, a former Nazi. And that's where he's like, he defected, but he's got there's some bad juice there, some bad history that Simon's been able to work past a little bit, at least.
Bad juju.
Right.
Bad juice.
It's in working with him, and he's become friends with his former oppressor. So there's a lot to
he
that.
He was a Nazi, but even while he was a Nazi, he was helping Jews escape.
He was working from the inside.
Yes,
and so there's some slightly redemptive qualities there, but there's still something that Simon's not going to be able to ever forgive, and he arguably shouldn't. They finally cracked the code through our boy, our bad guy's wife. This is not the type of man who leads a happy marriage on some level. He's abusive. He's a lot of things. And one of the things that he is a photographer. And our buddy Simon's like, okay, his love is photography. He's got an album somewhere full of film that's going to prove that he's this bad guy, and we have to find a way to get into his house. And so they do some breaking and entering, like good cops and detectives do, and they go and they find his red room, so to speak, is where he develops his film. And his dude's wife comes in and busts Simon. She's like, what is this? And they have a little bit of a heart to heart, and she's not quite ready to throw her husband under the bus yet, but she's also, like I said, not a happy marriage. There's some things there, and so she just kind of was like, it started off as just kind of a fun little thing. He wanted to take boudoir photos, but then it led to handcuffs and chains and making me do things I don't want to do and beating me and things that allude to rape inside the marriage that he would then photograph. And so Simon uses this to kind of break in. It's like, okay, you need to help me. And she does. But again, this is a very public and celebrated figure. So how are they supposed to bust him? Well, they strap a wire on Simon and send him in, but they catch the wire. And everything at this last moment seems to be lost, right? Like they took the wire. That was it. You're going to have his word. And our villainous bad guy, he's surrounded by allies of his own, and he gives this kind of monologue, this villainous monologue, and it lays it all out, but it's for naught, right? The wire's gone, except, our boy, this is not his first foray into being a spy, and he found a way to transmit the signal out, and they're going to get him. And at the end of the story, this is a complete tale.
And he smuggled out some of the film.
Yeah, and he got some of the film that's going to show everything. You get this really complete detective story done by Andrea Sorrentino in a way. I love noir detective stories. I love hard-boiled detective stories. And when I read one of these books, inevitably what I always ask myself, if it's done in comic form, is, would this make Darwin Cook happy? Because again, this book is all black and white. There's no color except red in this book. Does this great kind of V for Vendetta vibe to it. But would this noir book make Darwin Cook happy? And I land on yes with this book. I think Darwin Cook would would take this book and consume it. He would be so happy with it if he were still among us, because it's everything that you want out of this story. And it's interesting that we started off talking about a book where I said I was tired of a trope, because this book Simon Says is completely trope heavy, but it's done in a way that I just, maybe it's nostalgic because I enjoy what it is and I have expectations and it meets all those marks. But I really did I think this is a beautiful example of what you can do with a detective story in 2019. Even though this story's been told before, there's a new way to bring it to light. And there's, what's coming, right?
I really liked it because it was based off of a true story. Mm-hmm. Whether, I don't know how much of it's real or how much of it is, inflated for the purpose of the story. But I have no doubt that there was this detective, XU, that was helping round up Nazi soldiers, and probably more than one. There was probably quite a few people that were helping do that. But from that standpoint, it made it a little bit different for me, and I really liked it. I really enjoyed that book.
And it's adventurous. I mean, even though you know what's going to happen. So with this book, like any type of these books, if they're doing their job, the bad guy's going to get caught, the good guys are going to be successful.
Unless Jeff Lemire writes it.
Unless Jeff Lemire is writing it. But even though you know what the inevitable outcome is, they do a really good job of playing with the suspense of this book. They do a really good job of drawing you along, giving you just enough, like maybe this is different. And if it could be, but it's probably not going to be. And inevitably it's not, but it still makes you want to flip the page.
Well, it had the twist in it. It had, there's some great moments to that book.
There
and
really
it's beautifully
is.
drawn, and it's well done.
It's incredible. So if you like books like I'd say the Parker books that Darwin Cook did, if you enjoy that kind of story, or you enjoy Agatha Christie work, and you're like, I wish that was, we had a comic version of that. Well, we do. It's called Anything Darwin Cook Wrote, but also Simon Says. You go check it out. It's a lot of fun. You get the whole thing in a trade paperback. I think the one that Craig gave me is $16.99. Probably get it for less at your local comic shop. If they may cut you a deal. But yeah, it's fun. You get the complete story, and I ate it up. So go pick it up, man. It's fun stuff.
It will be on my short list for graphic novels.
Yeah,
Nice.
I don't know that it'll win, but it'll be on my short list for best graphic novel of the year.
When did it come out?
Just
this year?
a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago. It was this year. So the cool thing about this book is, again, it is all in black and white, but the Jesse Lee, he does textures really well. You could take a book like this in the way that Jesse Lee does it, and it could just be really granular, or it could just be really flat. This book is not a hyper detailed book, but the shading is all in just the right spot. It gives it the right amount of depth. The
splashes of the red in there are just
the pops, man.
Yeah.
And there's one, I forget which panel it is, where there's one scene where some of them he just washes red all over the panel, but there's one scene in here where the red just outlines the person, and the work that does for that scene is so just dynamic. It fundamentally is one of the most simplistic and technically amazing uses of color that you can have in comics, and it impressed the hell out of me.
Well, it's a little reminiscent of Sin City, where
very much, yeah, very much so.
A color was put in there for a reason. If there was a color in the book, it was there for a reason.
Yeah.
So,
and it tugs at your heartstrings too. It's that kind of story. So I mean, you can't read a story like this.
Any sympathy for Holocaust survivors and what they went through.
It pulls at you. I really enjoyed reading it. Not to the point that I felt, hey, you could read this book like this and feel depressed afterwards, and you're like, I really don't want to read a book about a Holocaust and a man that lost his family in it. But this book had enough suspense, it had enough drama to it that you don't walk away from this book feeling like maybe like you can do in some of the other books that I'm also arguably a big fan of. Some of these other graphic novels that are just really human based. That you walk away and you're like, that was not. I enjoyed my experience, but I don't have good feelings.
I don't feel better because I read that.
Right. This book you end up feeling like you there's some comeuppance.
It's always good to see Nazis get what's coming.
Always good to see them die, and there's a ton of them that die in this book.
There's
fun.
I don't get sick of that trope.
That's
for sure.
Nope, that is one that will live in my heart.
Yeah,
forever. Do you want to go now?
I would.
Do you feel safe in going now?
Safe. Comfortable. But I'm going to go for it.
Do it.
No, I'm just joking. So, my book of the week. So this book was released back in 1997. Man, every time I pull a book out of my collection, the archives I call it. That's that old. I'm like, gosh, dog, I've been buying comics for a long time. So this is by a publisher called Slave Labor Comics by, it's either Jonan Vasquez or Honan Vasquez. I don't know how it's pronounced. This is his independent company that he just, he was doing all his own books. And you may be familiar with this guy's work. He's the Invader Zim guy. So his first book was Johnny the Homicidal Maniac, which I read. And this is the follow-up series to that. This is a spinoff. Squee is the title of this book. Squee was a character in Johnny Homicidal Maniac. It was his neighbor. This little neurotic boy that was Johnny's neighbor, and he was the only person that seemed to realize that Johnny was killing people on a regular basis. But as is the regular theme in Vasquez's work, nobody pays attention to the children. And this little boy is trying to tell people, we've got a murderer next door, and Johnny's openly telling him about the murder. Nobody's listening to Squee. And Squee's very neurotic to boot. Yeah, a lot of neurotic children in Vasquez's work. So the difference between this book and the Johnny the Homicidal Maniac book is there's this series it was a 4-issue series. This is much less text heavy.
Mm-hmm.
He really lets his art tell more of the story than the text, and it's just funnier. He really rips open on the comedy on this, where, Johnny was really, it was dark comedy, social commentary, cynical 90s guy. This is still the cynical 90s humor. It's just a lot more humor based and nonsense. He just lets the nonsense fly.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So there's some stories about Squee in here, and then there's some pages that are just dropped on you that make no sense whatsoever, that he calls things like true tales of human trauma. Obviously are not true at all. And there's, it'll be a 1-page little story. It's all black and white, heavy inks. It's really fun to look at. But these true tales of human trauma are completely ridiculous. It reminds you of like a Monty Python sketch that's just dropped on you, and that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. For example, it shows a woman running into a hospital emergency room going, "Please, somebody, my baby." Doctor runs up, says, "Oh my God." And this baby's very happy. He's in a little bunny suit. Looks like it's a 1-year-old. And the doctor goes, "Oh my God." He goes, "It's too late." Runs out the door, throws the baby into the sky, and the baby's happily soaring through the sky and explodes. And that's how the story ends. Exploding baby, sad mother. Next page. I mean, this is just, these are the true tales of human trauma that he drops on you. So
that's the title of this episode: Exploding Baby, Sad Mother. Next page.
Yeah. And so in the, when you open up the first issue, this is the first comic I read to where I wanted to dissect every single page, because he drops little nonsense throughout the border. He makes fun of his own storytelling. He makes fun of his own drawing, like, I have no idea what's going on here, kind of things. Well, when you open up the first issue, the copyright box that's at the bottom corner,
the indica box.
I just happened to catch this when I first bought this book, and I'm like, oh my God, what have I got here? So I'm going to read this. Squee #1, April 1997, published by those spooky dead babies at Slave Labor Comics, gives the address. Squee and all its pierced nipple ripping contents are trademark and copyright dope ass Honan Vasquez. No part of this publication may be reproduced or forced down a loved one's throat without the written permission of Honan Vasquez and Slave Labor Comics. I don't know about you, but I feel like going dancing and having all those idiots give me dirty looks for not dancing the right way. Then maybe I'll drive home screaming with the stereo. Those little food characters on commercials always spook me. They were always so happy and trying to get me to eat them. It's just not right. And that is the copyright box on the first opening page. So that kind of sets the tone on what this guy just... It's something else. So
I'm going to have to get these books. I can tell already.
They're hilarious. This is the first comic I ever read that I was laughing out loud several times through every issue. These are hysterical.
Now, do you need to have read the other?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no.
Johnny the Homicidal Maniac sounds like something I'd like.
Oh, absolutely.
If you've never read that, you need to. It's,
yeah. It's so dark.
The 90s were
I
a
usually try
blind
to keep
spot
the
for me.
Trade paperbacks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Up here.
So, again, the Squee stories are really funny. Again, stories of a neurotic little boy. That bad, unfortunate things always seem to happen to him, and he's always freaking out, borderline nervous breakdowns. Which, as you go through and you read Vasquez's stuff, it's obviously based on his childhood.
Yeah.
He was a neurotic little kid. That was his imagination was tortured by his own imagination.
Right.
He was scared to death there were monsters under his bed. And as soon as he checked and he wasn't there, he knew it was hiding in his closet. I mean, So these are obviously based on him. Well, one of these cynical little things that he drops in this first issue that I want to highlight, if anybody is old enough to remember the Tickle Me Elmo dolls and the craze of the Tickle Me Elmo.
People were literally trampled.
Yeah, trampled, and people getting punched for Tickle Me Elmo and that ludicrousy. So he rips on that with a advertisement he drops in this book called Tickle Me Helmo.
Oh, God.
And it advertises that the upgraded version, the latest version of Tickle Me Helmo, has 20 levels of interaction. And he goes through these 20 levels, of which a few I will name now. Level 1, I'll start with, giggles when squeezed. Level 2, vibrates with glee. And then as you go through the list, it gets into things like, then Helmo begins to question the nature of your relationship by asking, why do you keep touching me? Then Helmo starts reciting goth poetry, instituting the bleakness of life to young children. Helmo calls upon his Lord Satan to come down and stare at the child during bedtime.
Yeah.
And this is an illustration of the devil perched on the child's bed, just, stare at him in the face. An internal modem in Helmo uses the child's email address to threaten the president. And then one of the final scenes is Helmo uses the child to reenact the torture scene from Reservoir Dogs.
Oh man.
Yeah. So these are the things that he rips on, just the ludicrousy of what was going on at the time. Yeah, especially
that subversiveness in those comments. That's what I loved about. I've never read this, but I loved about Johnny the Homicidal Maniac. Is it really is there's a lot there that talks about the world we live in and who we are as a culture. That pulls a lot from things like, the good part of Mad Magazine and all of those books that were underground, what Robert Crumb did, all of, women's comics and stuff like that. It gave birth to these things, and I just love it, man.
Yeah, something else I'm going to run through, another random thing he drops in the middle of all these stories is he talks about going to the movie, and, it occurred to him, it's like, well, what if somebody made a movie to intentionally disturb people? So he described what that process would be like if he could create a movie and control the experience of said movie.
Yeah.
So he talks about, you've got a theater full of people, and opening up, he says, during the 20-minute credit sequence, the audience will be treated to high-pitched audio medley of screaming crack babies and mating howler monkeys. To calm their jangled nerves, the film begins with some typical Hollywood garbage, as he says. In the classic tradition, ethnicity means a death mark and the reason to motivate the noble white guy. Female character is introduced, and of course, the males in the audience will sit patiently through plot to see if she gets naked.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just when the audience begins to get comfortable, an actual story with depth begins, making them have to pay attention. They get angry. So, the movie keeps going. He keeps going through scenes, all of them designed to make people really uncomfortable. Like he talks about, there's a scene where a dinosaur shows up and attacks children, and, it's shocking. He attacks children and he starts eating them. And then it describes him chewing on the children like a gobstopper. And the scene doesn't end. It just goes on for minutes upon minutes of a dinosaur chewing on children's bodies, and how uncomfortable that it makes the whole audience. And then he talks about the inevitable love scene that happens, and this is described as such. The love scene that ensues is the most grotesque perversion of obscenity most of the audience will ever see. The soundtrack for this scene is the over-amplified sounds of someone stirring a large saucy bowl of spaghetti and mac and cheese. Close-ups or veins are nice too.
That's a description of a sound I didn't need.
Yeah. So these are the kind of things that are in this story that are just dropped on you. It's just totally off the wall, bizarre, cynical humor that'll it'll put you in stitches.
Nice.
So to find this, these are kind of pricey if you go to try to buy the singles. I mean, you can't hardly find them. You can find them on eBay occasionally. The trades are out there, but they're not cheap. So if you're going to go look for these, I would recommend trying to find them electronically where they'll be the best price. But I highly recommend them if you have a cynical sense of humor and you clearly remember the 90s. You'll appreciate these more.
Yeah.
If you remember the 90s, just not the comic scene, but the comic scene, movies, television, just
pop
all
culture
of it.
of the 90s.
Yeah, there's tons of stuff where he's just bashing on all of it. It's great.
That's awesome. Tickle Me Elmo still tickles me.
Yeah. Oh, it's amazing.
Jerry, my brother.
Yes.
What'd you read this week for us, man?
So after reading Spider-Man Life Story, kind of up in my Spider-Man feels and wanting to get a little bit more on that. So I picked up one of my absolute favorite Spider-Man series.
Okay.
It's Spider-Man Reign. It was
nice.
4-issue miniseries from December 2006 to March 2007. It was done by Care Andrews, written and art. Jose Villarrubia also did some of the art there, and Care Andrews did the coloring. Chris Eliopoulos and Russ Wooten did the letters. So this is a story that is essentially Peter Parker at the end of the line.
Mm-hmm.
If you've ever read any of the Hulk the End, Old Man Logan, the thing that I always thought of was Dark Knight Returns. Whenever I read this, because you kind of have Peter Parker, and he's living in New York that is now essentially controlled. It's like a military state essentially.
Right.
You have a curfew, and there's like law enforcement that will straight up just beat the shit out of somebody if they're out after curfew. And it's just really bleak,
Mm-hmm.
really sad. And at one point, Jay Jonah, comes down. Apparently, he put himself in seclusion, and he's trying to get in touch with Peter because he knows that he was Spider-Man all this time. And he's like, I'm sorry for everything that I've done. And he's just kind of like an old raving lunatic.
Mm-hmm.
He ends up Peter opens the door, and he has a camera that he gives him, and he's still trying to spur him on, and these police come because it's after curfew, and they start beating him up. And Peter's like opening this camera, and he mentions there's a face in this, and it's looking back at me, and apparently it was Black Mask to his costume. And it pretty much awakens the entire Spider-Man personality.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a fantastic story. He talks about how it's the mask that's making him make all the jokes and everything. Like you go straight into like prime quippy Peter Parker Spider-Man, and he talks about how it's always like he always tells the jokes and everything to hide his fear and insecurities. But it was fantastic. As soon as that pops up, someone snaps a picture of it, and the government is about to initiate this plan to they call it the web, and they're gonna put this energy shield over the entire city, keep everyone safe,
Mm-hmm.
because they don't want any outside threat or any crazies getting in. And what you come to find out is this whole system, the governor or whoever they is in control here, they have the Secret Six, they're Sinister Six villains, and they all have bombs in them, and they're controlling them, and they're gonna make them go take care of Peter.
Mm-hmm.
You have this great scene with him, fighting back at them. One of the things that they occasionally go to, because he's an old man at this point, is he keeps mentioning and talking to MJ,
Mm-hmm.
but you never see her face, and you find out this whole time it was a coping mechanism, and she had died from radiation poisoning
Right.
from being around him for so long. There's this whole
which was a different take on it than Spider Island.
yeah.
Spider Island, the radiation made her immune.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
and instead in this one, it's just everything that you really want in a Spider-Man story.
Yeah.
Really, as far as the character goes, you get to the pinnacle of it, and he does what he does best, and fights through an entire building full of enemies, joking and making quips the whole time, and then at the very end he gets to the top, and he's last boss, and he makes that ultimate sacrifice that a hero, does, and they have a whole other group cast of characters that are dealing with J. Jonah. He's essentially enlisted a lot of like the children that are fed up, like this younger generation, because all the adults are just succumb to this fear and everything of the outside world, and just trying to keep everyone in the curfew, and the kids are rebelling and everything, and just the amount of emotion and everything that's in this book was like the end of it always gets me.
It's a fantastic story. It's got a little bit of trivia. The first issue was a recalled book.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Do you guys know why?
Wait, is this the one where you see Peter Parker's penis?
Yeah, this is, you get to see little Peter.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so they recalled it. So if you have the first printing of issue number 1, it's like a $15, $20 book.
Is it the scene whenever he's like just wearing the mask
and he's sitting on the edge of the bed?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I've heard about this. I don't own this by any means.
I actually own the.
Do you?
Yeah. That's why it's in my spinner rack.
Okay.
There's a lot of really great internal monologue and just this tortured person that is responsible for the death of his loved one.
It's been a while since I read it, but it is. I wouldn't say it's on that same level as like Dark Knight Returns, but it's a book that if you're a Peter Parker fan, if you're a Spider-Man fan, that you should revisit every now and then, because it is kind of that, hey, this is what happens at the end of his life type story.
Well, and it's timely for the world that we live in now. You're succumb to authoritarianism for your own safety. Yeah. Allow us to build this wall to keep them out, but not keep you in.
Yeah.
What is the end game of great power having great responsibility? Yeah. What does that look like after years? And what's the duality of being a superhero like that?
Well, and what happens when you've spent your entire life fighting crime because you were given this power, and then your significant other dies because you had that power.
Yep.
Yeah.
The person you love most actually pays the price, indirectly even, as opposed to, well, a criminal came in and killed her because they found out who she was.
Yeah.
She died from having sex with
just
you.
a byproduct of existing.
There was nothing he could do to save her.
Yeah.
Well, and the story is also inevitably a conversation about, is Spider-Man Peter Parker, or is Peter Parker Spider-Man? Like, which one's the predominant force in that, and what's the duality of that relationship in its own brain? And I think that it's one of the better stories that speaks to that.
Yeah.
And like you said, Jerry, packed full of feels, man. Yeah. Like, it just really hits you, because you can't spend this much time with these characters without developing some type of relationship with them.
Right.
You just can't. And so,
unless it's the Punisher, you just want to see him kill the next person.
Absolutely not. No, I disagree.
You just want to see him kill the next person.
I feel the euphoria that he feels.
I mean, even like J. Jonah has a lot of feels in it, and they kind of coin him as like a Citizen Kane coming down from the mountain. And they even have one of his old villains kind of gets a sort of a moment that is really touching in the story too. And it's,
well, again, it's been a minute since I read it, but I mean, it's J. Jonah coming back is almost like, okay, well, I've got to be the voice of reason for the city. They're allowing this to happen, and it's very like Transmetropolitan, where you've got the old retired who everybody perceived as being a crazy journalist comes back to try and wake people up to what's really going on around them.
Which is always crazy to me when they do that, because that's not the J. Jonah Jameson that I know. So especially when we're talking about like applications of that character to modern times, when people try to make him the figure who would leak, he would do the WikiLeaks thing and everything. That's not J. Jonah Jameson. Like, to me, J. Jonah Jameson is the character that would 100%, he's all about the clickbait. He's all about click. Like, that
he's
would
TMZ.
be him. Exactly. And so when they try to make him something else that's not that, I'm just like, I get why you're doing that, because he is a very public figure.
Well, I think in this case they did it because it was to show that he had had a change of heart.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
This wasn't a, hey, take J. Jonah Jameson and have the same character. This is oh, I lived this life and I was wrong.
I learned from my
fix
mistake.
Yes.
And I get that. It's just always weird to me because I don't feel like he's that
he's
character.
TMZ.
Yeah, he's so ingrained and set in that way that I don't think he changes. It's all about selling
papers. It doesn't matter what's on the cover or if it's right or not. It's what's on the front page. If that sells papers, that's what he's going to do.
Yeah. And I mean, he delivers the camera and everything to Peter as like a wake up call, but he also just kind of puts it in his hands after that. He's like, you know, because these troops come in and he's essentially disturbing the peace, so they're just like they're going to kill him.
Yeah.
So he just kind of like, you know, leaves it in Peter's hands, like, you know, if I die here in the streets, then it's all for nothing. And,
right.
You know. So. Well,
buddy, it's gonna be your last review for a while. You got anything you want to add in there? Anything you want to say to anybody?
Not necessarily. It's been a pleasure doing this last year and a half.
Yep.
Had a lot of fun. Had some laughs. Yeah, had some tears.
Yeah, there's been some tears.
Yeah. It's thanks for having me.
No, dude, thank you.
We've loved having you on the show, and the seat's always available if you're in town and want to be on the show.
We're gonna miss you, man. Good luck.
Yeah, thank you.
Good luck and Godspeed. So speaking of Godspeed, next Wednesday is the high holy day of comicdom. That's when the new books come out. The old books don't matter anymore. The new books are all that matter, and you're gonna run out to your comic shop and you're gonna get it, and they're gonna be just your prized possession for 7 whole days, and you're gonna love every minute of it. But you know, because I joke, of course, we all love these treasures from way back. I mean, some of us have talked about some books that are older than we are several times. So we always like to end our show by giving you a little bit of taste of what we might be picking up in the next week. What we're hedging our bets. We don't know if they're going to be good or not, but we think they might be, and we're curious to see what work is being done in them. So we're going to set the menu, so to speak, for the next week. Books that are coming out on New Comic Book Day. Who wants to go first on this one?
I will.
Okay.
So like a lot of folk, I'm looking forward to Marvel Comics X-Force #1 by Benjamin Piercy, Joshua Cassara, and Dean White. I saw where Percy posted that this first issue is going to get pretty dark and pretty gritty.
Yeah.
And I'm so up for it, man. In the synopsis, it talks about, it says the X-Force is the CIA of the mutant world, 1/2 intelligence branch, 1/2 special ops. And then it references Beast, Jean Grey, and Sage on one side, Wolverine, Kid Omega, and Domino on the other. However, Colossus is on the cover, so Colossus is not mentioned in the synopsis. So I'm concerned about that. I want Colossus in that story. So I'm interested to see where the X-Force series is going to go.
How's the X-Men line in general doing right now? I haven't heard anything about it lately.
Wow.
It seems to be okay.
So, I mean, I'm joking. I'm actually curious about this book because I'm not sure how this team is supposed to work in a world where it's illegal for mutants to kill men.
Well, and part of the synopsis on that book said, in a perfect world, there'd be no need for the X-Force, but we're not there yet.
Yeah. So I'm not sure how that's supposed to work. But yeah, no, looking forward to it.
I mean, every country has that rule, right? You can't kill.
Yeah.
But they all have their special forces and their black ops. So.
Facts. I'll go next. I'll jump in here. So there's a book that I'm looking forward to from a little company called Boom Studios, and it's actually surprising me that I'm curious about this book because it's a story that it's a book that ties into a Netflix series. Am I stealing yours, Jerry? I might be. You're side-eyeing me.
It's not Netflix, it's Sci-Fi Channel.
Is it Sci-Fi Channel?
Right.
Okay, it's on Netflix. That's how I know of it. And the book is called The Magicians. And I know about this because Roger watched the series, and I caught part of it.
Good.
And from what I saw, it was really good. But this takes place after that series apparently ends, and it's kind of the new class of this school. Lev Grossman, who's one of the main characters, returns. No, he's the guy that made the book. Sorry. He's returning to Boom Studios with an all new story about the magicians. He's got Lila Sturgis helping him on it. P.S. Pack, a really, really good team. So essentially what this book is it's the first class, back at Breakville, which is the academy. And it's the first class to kind of include these hedge magicians who are kind of known for being, dangerous practitioners. Unsanctioned magic is what is what it says in the preview. essentially these are the guys that don't follow the rules. They're the one, like if you're familiar with Harry Potter, they're the ones that are born of muggles and didn't have a lot of training, but they're not interested in the traditions, and they're interested in breaking the rules and being awesome. And I'm curious to see what this is, because the show has a lot of well, number one, it's got a lot of sex, and that's always fun. But it's got a lot. It's not just heteronormative sex. There's a lot of queer relationships in the show. There's a lot of really strong female roles. There's a lot of representation of diversity, and there's a lot of representation of other cultures, especially with Indian cultures. They do a really good job with it. I like Lila Sturgis a lot, actually. So I'm really looking forward to this book from Boom Studios.
So my book is another Marvel book, and it's New Mutants.
Okay.
And it's Jonathan Hickman, Ed Brisson, and Rod Reese. And I originally thought that Hickman was just helping with the story for the first book, and then Brisson was going to take it over. But Hickman is the credited writer on the second issue, so this is his story as well. So they go off into space alongside the Starjammers, and Hickman telling another X book. I don't know what to not expect. It's gonna be good, so
it's on my list.
Yeah.
All right, Jerry,
so
did I steal your book?
There's a little book by Kieran Gillen and Stephanie Hans that is pretty good, and I pick up occasionally, called Die. The 9th issue comes out next week, and it has been fantastic. I know you guys haven't, you'd more or so like it in the trade format,
right,
to read all of it. I've been enjoying picking up each issue. It's usually top of my pile. Yeah. It's an amazing world. The art is gorgeous, and all the characters are so intriguing. Last issue we got the Grief Knight. Not really sure if they're gonna have a specific character focus this issue, or where we're gonna go, but I am here for it.
Nice. Yeah, the book's amazing.
Yeah.
And the art is, it's the hotness. Well, guys, we ready to bring this thing home? We got anything else we need to throw out there to the world?
I don't think so.
I got one. So today is November 3rd, which means that we are now counting down the ways. We're less than a month away from Comic-Conway, which is going to be happening November, I think, 15th, 16th, and 17th. And it's going to be happening, of course, in Conway at the Faulkner County Convention Center. We're going to be there. We're going to be happy to be there. We're going to see some of the folks that are there. I know that some of us, and not me, but I'm not going to mention names, have art commission that they're just itching to pick up. There's going to be some great creators. It's always a good show. It's one of our favorite shows in Central Arkansas. So come out, come check it out, and we'll be there. We'll see you there. But in the meantime, if you want to get with us as soonish, nowish, kind of, we have a little Facebook group that it's on and popping, just as to use that phrase. It's fun times. There's a whole lot of people on that page who really love art, who really love the geek culture, who really love the community that we're building, that, they come from other communities. They're knowledgeable about what we're talking about. They have interesting things to say, and you could be one of them. All you got to do is ask to join the group, and we'll throw you in there, as long as you're not like a Russian robot or anything. But if you want to see some of the images of the books that we're reading, you follow us on Instagram and Twitter. We're at SFG Podcast on that. And if you just kind of have any questions, comments, concerns, maybe you've listened to this show and you're just find yourself weeping uncontrollably because you're not going to get to hear Jerry's voice on here anymore, and maybe you think we're just lying to you and that we're really running Jerry off or something, and you just want to get on here and you want to cuss me out. You want to call me every name in the book but a child of God, and you need to just rail against me for running Jerry away, and it's all my fault. You need to express that. Then you can send that email to southernfriedgeekery@gmail.com, and I'll tell you to go fuck yourself, because that's what'll happen. No, I won't. I'm joking. I'll send you an explanation of how it's not that, and for the right price, I'll send you his email, and you can send it to him. I'll sell you out. I'm not afraid.
Oh no.
And then Tuesday is V for Vendetta Day.
Tuesday is V for Vendetta Day.
So make sure you watch that.
November the 5th.
Yeah.
So good times. So go do all of those things we just said. Have a great week. Read some comics. Come hang out with us. Come listen to the show. Yada yada yada. Go forth. Love some comics. Woo. That was the last one.
I'll keep the woo going.